march of liberty, however, is an uneven process. And it unfolds differently in different countries. For example, if you've lived in an organized society that was authoritarian for a long time, it might have some quite good features. If you take Iraq, for example, there was always the risk after Saddam fell that there would be a Sunni-Shia split that we've seen manifest in various ways, and that the role of women and girls might be compromised because it takes a long time to build a democracy. You may think democracy is majority rule, but if that's all you have and you have any kind of sectarian or other divides in society, it can become mob rule. It's majority rule, minority rights, individual rights, the rule of law, and some sort of consensual decision-making process. So what you have seen in the last few years is the struggle to hold together in one country that includes a very large Kurdish minority, to reconcile the competing claims of various groups to oil, and how the resources should be divided between the national and local governments, and then largely how are they going to relate to us, how are they going to relate to Iran, all these mega questions. But underneath, the fact that the people of Iraq have more control over their destiny if they can keep from consuming themselves in the fires of violence is a good thing. Tunisia, I think, is off to a pretty good start. Libya, you know, it's a lot of political controversy in America now because of the horrible terrorist killing of the Americans in Benghazi. But that American ambassador was the most popular foreigner in Libya. And Libyan citizens risked their lives to storm 2 armed militia offices, unarmed, to disarm them, to demonstrate that they wanted a peaceful future. So I think once you took down Gaddafi's security apparatus, created a lot of vacuums for others to move into, and those people will try to wreck Libya's experiment in the Arab Spring and democracy. But if you have enough people brave enough to march on all compounds, I would say there's a pretty good prospect for a success there. Egypt, I think Morsi's off to a pretty good start. He's trying to reconcile the need to keep his Islamic political party base intact, not be upset by the Salafis, and deliver something to the more secular Egyptians who actually, the young people who started the Arab Spring, in part because Egypt offers an extreme example of what is a global problem, including in the United States. The university system was not dismantled under Mubarak and continued to produce 400,000 university graduates a year, but the economy produced nowhere near 400,000 jobs for university graduates a year. So you have an economic dimension of this, a social dimension, a political dimension, and a security dimension. And the only thing I would say is the roadmap will be uneven and bumpy in all of these places, but the road to democracy always is. Keep in mind, when the United States was founded more than 200 years ago, only white male property owners could vote. White male property owners. African Americans were designated in our Constitution as 2/3 of a person when counting for the census. We had a civil war, which was still, in terms of the percentage of our people killed, the bloodiest of all of our conflicts, determining whether we could still be one country if the slaves became free. And then it took another 100 years after that to remove the last legal vestiges of slavery. And even since then, there's been an ongoing effort to get the practical consequences of our whole history worked out. Meanwhile, women have risen to more legal equality, but we still don't have anywhere near as many women in our Congress as the Rwandans have in Parliament. And we still have a pay disparity. And we're having a presidential election where one candidate, President Obama, signed something called the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act. Simply guarantees equal pay for equal work and the right to sue to get it if you don't have it. And the other candidate, Governor Romney, wouldn't even say in the debate the other night whether he would have signed the bill. He didn't want to say I wouldn't because then he'd make the women voters mad. He didn't want to say I would because he'd make his right-wing base mad. So this is a long, Max Weber, I recommend you, if you really care about this, I recommend you read a short book or a long essay written at the end of World War I in 1918 by a German sociologist who was a Christian Democrat in those terms called Max Weber. It's called Politics as a Vocation. And the defining sentence in the whole thing is that politics is the long and slow boring of hard boards. So if you want the Arab Spring to work, you have to build it. So I'd say, yes, the people are ready, but they don't have the institutional support or the experience to make it work yet. You have to build it. And building it will be a different task, a different challenge in different countries. And in some of those countries, you risk getting killed if you try.